Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 347 of the Saturn Studs Podcast. I'm Kurt, joined once again this week by my annual co-hosts, Peter and Jake.
That's right, Kurt. And for our last show of the year of 2022, this is the scuffed gaming peripheral edition of the cast. Sometimes we do these random deep dives when we start the show. This one we did before we started the show.
That's true.
And we found some amazing controllers. If they were cheap,
to be fair,
I would buy them for all of you.
We often also do these before we start the show. Usually we
then
finish up a rabbit hole, and then we start the show and immediately fall into another rabbit hole.
It's true, and it's always it's been a highlight. I'm proud to share these moments with you.
I just scrolled to the end of the list and saw the DigiSense eye smell, and now I'm done with humanity for the day.
Yeah, I don't know how it translates it to smell. It's never worked. It's never worked for humanity. Smell-o-vision is not something we'll get to in my lifetime, and I'm very glad for that. I think it's an end state for technological development. It's a sign of the end times.
You know, this website that you shared with us for the Alpha Grip,
Mm-hmm.
there are a couple things that I particularly love. It looks like it was designed in 2005. One, love that. It also has an iPod Nano, the one with like the extended screen, as like one of its featured, for the Nano 5, as one of its featured grips. Love that. Excellent. And then it also is showing that it can be used with World of Warcraft, which is topical and still around. So you have no idea if this was updated yesterday or 2005. Is it a real company still?
Hard to say.
Yeah, we'll see if we get Peter back, because I'm sure he has many more things to say about the Alpha Grip, and about the X Grip,
about all the different grips. He's a very grippy individual.
You can hold on to him even if he's covered head to toe in oil. I know from experience.
While I disappeared into the depths of the Alpha Grip, I went into its circuitry. Did you guys talk about this? Who is this? Paris Hilton, Disney Hilton, Paris Spears.
The
Peter,
model.
Who's the lady?
When you were in the grid.
The model that's showing off.
I've ascended, Kurt. I now know how to use a Titan sphere.
You've become the puppet master AI.
With the model showing off the Alpha Grip?
Yeah. Who is that? Is that someone I should know?
No. But she's a gamer, and she's most likely going to hook up with Graham later.
Yeah.
The human designed for car crashes.
Is there a human designed for typing on keyboard? I love the feature here on this. It says, type 50 plus words per minute from any location.
50 plus? Why is the bar set so low?
So we could add the plus on. And the first and most important one is lean back from your desk. That's all we need.
Lean back.
The evolution of writing speed according to Alpha Grip. Is this the Bible of Alpha Grip?
It could be. It almost looks like the Time Cube.
It's kind of like the Gutenberg Bible in its cultural impact.
From chisel and stone to quill, pen, and parchment. I did not know I was going to get a history lesson according to Alpha Grip from my gaming controller website.
I don't think it's for gaming. I think it's for typing.
Mm-hmm.
Then why do they use it or show it being used?
I think he thinks that you can use it for both. Like it's the everything. It's the ultimate. It's the next evolution, like the Time Cube. Y'all remember
the next evolution of humanity? Is Graham the next evolution of humanity?
It's the working man's controller coming back from a long day at the mine, and you dust off your Alpha Grip controller that you use to craft some mines. And
is that where we're coming at you live from? The Alpha Grip mines?
Hey, it might as well be either that or the writer's studio at Avatar 2, where just the writers are kept in cages, churning out 6, 7, 8 movies at a time.
Using the alpha crypt.
Kate Winslet's shivering in the corner because she just was forced underwater for 7 minutes.
Navy SEALs are come in to shoot the scenes.
They're on standby.
I put my cast through Navy SEAL training so they could really feel like a SEAL in Avatar.
Most expensive movie ever made for good reason. Well, actually, not for great reason, but let's not bullshit about here. It's going to be a shorter episode this week. You do have the mini-sode in between to kind of bolster it. But let's get into Trae Watch here, and what a Trae Watch!
The one
Boy,
Trae.
we watching Trays. Yeah, we just have a second trailer for Knock at the Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
But it sure as hell showed a lot more than I think the first one did.
Is everyone excited to see Dave Bautista
Again?
directed by M. Night Shyamalan? I know I am.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this was necessary to come out with the second one and kind of reveal the deal. I mean, we already knew that there were the gay dads in the cabin with their daughter, and some people show up and ask them to what is it? They ask them to like
They want
murk
to
each other?
sacrifice someone to prevent the apocalypse.
Yeah. So that's scary. But like, that was enough. That was enough to get me hooked in. And then they kind of just started showing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Maybe some of it's misdirection, but I don't know. It's M. Night Shyamalan at this stage in his career.
Yeah, it's got a good amount of stars in this too. You do have Dave Bautista, but you also have was that Jonathan Groff that I saw?
I don't know.
Is that what his
Rupert
name
Grint is in it. I think
Or am
this
I
is the
getting
first
Rupert
time I've
Grint?
seen him in something that wasn't Harry Potter related.
Yeah, so returning names. Yeah, Jonathan Groff's in it, who is fantastic. But for singing, not usually for acting. We'll see how he is in this. I mean, I think the last thing I saw him in was the Matrix, the new Matrix movie, and he was
What a standout movie that was.
he was fine. Oh yeah, I don't know if I ever told you guys I watched that movie. I think I missed that episode that we were
I
on,
think you did.
and then I
yeah.
ended up watching that on the way back from Italy. And
Not great.
hooey, what a movie!
Oh, what a movie.
Yeah, it's the pigs in a blanket version of the Matrix movie. It's wrapped up and easily digestible, but boy, you're just like, there's nothing really to write home about this.
Yeah.
I'll eat it, but I'm not gonna be happy about
I'll eat it, but I'm not gonna like it. All right. Well,
so that's
we got Fish Peter back from the ether, so we'll be back after a brief pause here. All right, we fished him back out of there.
Tron's got a hold on me, baby.
Tron's holding on for grim death here.
I fight for the users.
So
Peter had the real knock at the cabin.
yeah, and didn't share any of his thoughts on the trailer. So now we're gonna put him in the spotlight.
You're gonna quiz me on the M. Night Shyamalan.
What is the premise of this movie?
We all know Dave Bautista is a size extra, extra large. What size shirt is he wearing in this? A, small. B, medium. C, Dave Bautista large.
It's a tankini.
D, all the above. Because this is like a size or two short for him, and he's popping out of those buttons.
Well,
man,
when you're a cultist,
that's the only
you
apocalypse
have
going
what
on in this trailer.
You have what you have when you're a cultist.
Mm-hmm. So my only question is this a sequel to The Cabin in the Woods?
No.
I really want it to be, because it's It is a similar premise without the horror anthology stuff painted on it, right? Where the family that goes to the cabin, or the people that go to the cabin, are the people that must be sacrificed to stop the apocalypse from happening, which
Yeah.
is the plot of Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
It's a different mechanism by which that happens, but same one. And you know what? None of us realized that Shyamalan, he secretly bought the rights to that film out from under our noses, and he's going to connect them together. See, I don't know. Well, I kind of guess that, like, it's the twist is going to be on the side of stupid, I think, for this one.
It's M. Night Shyamalan late stage, so yeah.
Like, when Jake, you were the one who saw Old, right?
Fuck that. No.
Okay.
The last
Did
Shyamalan
any of us
movie
see
I saw
Old?
was Glass.
Okay, because I remember we spoiled that movie for ourselves, and we learned that it was just like drugs.
It was drugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's what
oh,
drugs do.
Wow.
I think we were just curious but didn't want to go see it. So we when we looked up some of the reviews, they were spoilers. It was all about them taking experimental drugs. It was not much like the graphic novel on which it was based. There was some weird, like, maelstrom thing.
Time storm, that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's going to be stupid. I think the twist is going to be stupid.
I would be inclined to agree with you. I think there's very little chance that this movie is particularly good. M. Night Shyamalan hasn't made a positively reviewed movie in God knows how long. I think since Split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been I don't know. It's just I feel like he's a one trick pony. And then after
He
that, it's
certainly
like
pigeonholed himself.
he's got a thinly veiled plot with a obscure twist at the end of his movies, and it's not enough meat to fill the bellies of the crowd of public opinion.
Yeah.
The slavering children.
Let me see if
slobbering children at the biting at the bit, looking for those worms from Mama Bird.
So yeah.
Cheyenne Mama Bird.
I didn't realize Signs had a positive reviewing. So yeah, here's his last few films based on Tomato Meter. Old, 50% fresh. Glass, 36% fresh. Split, 78% fresh. The Visit, 68%. So Split came out in 2016. But the audience score for The Visit was only 51. After Earth, 12%.
I'm being baffled right now by the movies that I'm posthumously learning he directed.
Devil. It's just called Devil. 49%. The Last Airbender, his worst movie by Tomato Meter, with 5%. The Happening, 17%. Lady in the Water, 25%. And we're all the way back in 2006 now. The Shark is Still Working, 100%. But that's not a movie he directed. He was just in that. The Village, 43%, and then his intro period where he had The Sixth Sense. Wait, he wrote Stuart Little. What?
What? He was a writer on it?
He's credited as a screenwriter for Stuart Little.
Amazing.
He was the guy who was in the back being like, guys, we should have a twist where, like, maybe the mouse is really the boy's actual blood brother.
Well, that's the twist, is that the parents went to the orphanage full of human children and chose the mouse to adopt.
Yeah, so his first movie was a movie called Wide Awake, which came out in 1998 and made $258,000. Then he did The Sixth Sense.
What did that get on Tomato?
86%.
Okay.
And then Unbreakable at 70%. Signs had a higher thermometer than Unbreakable? What? Signs is a terrible movie.
I don't know. This is just fuel for the tomato fire.
So dumb. Like, why? If the alien's weakness is water, why come to the one planet that is like 70% water?
But Kurt, it's an allusion to the Bible, and they're demons, and it's holy water.
Is that what he was going for?
That's what I've heard. Is like the analysis version of it. Because I haven't seen the movie, so I got no fucking clue. But wasn't like the crazy lady, like the grandma who did all the bottles? She was like a Bible crazy lady.
Well, I think the big thing, or maybe it was the mother. So I've only seen Science once. It was at a drive-in. It was the second movie, and I fell asleep halfway through it. But there was one of the characters was like, "Oh, everything happens for a reason." Like, in the kid's asthma, like saved him from the poison gas of the aliens, because that's how asthma works.
Yeah,
He couldn't breathe. He wasn't breathing the. Okay.
yeah.
I wonder if there's some solid exposition on IMDb trivia.
Maybe we need to watch Signs at some point. But yeah, that's Trae Watch actually.
Ta-da!
Let's move now.
The only Trae Watch will ever get done in under 10 minutes.
To the follow up. That was probably a world record shortest Trae Watch.
I mean, we try stretching it out. We do, we swear, but only so much you can do with 6 featurettes and 1 actual trailer. I mean, this is like the 15th featurette I've seen from Megan.
Yeah, they are marketing the shit out of it.
Yeah, isn't that out already?
I don't know. All I know is that they don't have the rights to, or they only have like the rights to the first Child's Play movie, so they're trying to create a similar property.
It is
James
out
Wan.
currently.
Yeah, by James Wan.
He did Aquaman, and
Yeah.
and the
So he's-
Conjuring movies, which is probably what
Yes.
he's more known for.
So yeah, this feels like it's right in his wheelhouse,
Yep.
like a horror comedy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move now to the follow up, and
flop.
what a follow up it is. In first place is Avatar: The Way of Water, with $63.33 million this weekend, down 52.8% week over week, which is not super promising to have that big a drop when you need so much money to break even.
Yeah. I feel like when I heard the articles talking about it, people were like, this proves the haters wrong. Like, this is proof that it's going and it's going to make its money back. Like, if it was 2 billion for all of the movies, I would say, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, then it's making its money back. But like, it was 2 billion for just Avatar 2, right?
As far as I'm aware.
I mean, it's hard to say. So when you look up online, Avatar 2 has an estimated budget of 350 million, probably double that shit for the marketing. You're looking at like 700 million. And then on top of that, you also have them very open about filming already all of Avatar 3. So is that baked into the Avatar 2 budget that they have to make back? And they're just not counting in the VFX and like other stuff, like scoring of it.
Mhm.
So I don't know. They definitely said Avatar 2 has $2 billion dollar like point to hit before it becomes profitable.
It's
And
like
maybe-
a fucking inverse amortization.
And maybe that's what 20th Century is saying you have to hit, or Disney is saying you have to hit in order for us to greenlight 4 and 5, and that'll like make up for Avatar 3, and we'll know we'll get our money back because Avatar 3 is just going to be a cheaper movie. I don't know, because this is also being a very popular thing where they're filming 2 movies at the same time and then cutting it up into a couple things. But
I think it's just for Avatar 2. The way I'm reading the Variety article where I think this kind of originated. It's for, and speaking about just Avatar: The Way of Water needing to break even, which again, this article also puts it in its place. That would mean that it has to be like top 5 highest grossing
Yeah.
movies of all time.
2 billion, I think,
Yeah.
would make it number 4.
Yeah. So it should be noted that a lot of that, again, is going to be off the back of the international box office, which it's about a 30-70 split
Yeah.
right now
I
between domestic
have
and
it up
foreign.
on screen if you're watching on the video version. It's $338 million domestically and 762 internationally. Yeah, if it has a strong international box office, particularly in China and India, I have a feeling that this is going to do okay. It might make 2 billion. I don't know though. It's a taller no movie since No Way Home has even broken 1.5 billion. And that movie came out like 2 years ago at this point, just about.
Yeah. Like we remark on how amazing Top Gun did, but that kind of comes with a couple of asterisks, which should in no way diminish its performance. I would say, like it did really well for being like a non-Disney,
Non really
James Cameron.
franchise movie.
Yeah, and for being a sequel to a movie that, for all intents and purposes, there did not feel like any
Need.
grassroots
Yeah.
support for it. So it did pretty well, and I don't know how much was
Like
the final box office.
1.45, I think.
1.48.
Oh, 4.8?
Yeah.
So it came
Okay.
close to the $1.5 billion mark, but not quite.
Right.
Mhm.
So this has to do
And-
25% better.
And this will have
And-
to have the kind of staying power that Top Gun Maverick did. That, as much as anything, was the most impressive thing about it, is
Yeah.
how many weeks in the top 10 it was able to stay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Top Gun, I want to compare to how much Avatar 2 got. I don't know what was domestic opening for Avatar, because Top Gun had a 126 million domestic
Opening weekend for Avatar was 134 million, so not much higher.
Okay. Yeah, not much higher, and we're seeing similar drop-offs by 50%. And if that slows, okay, but still, that's on track to hit 1.5.
Yeah, the most
Not much more than that.
recent daily that Box Office Mojo reports is the 28th, and it brought in $20 million.
I'm really thinking
Mhm.
we're gonna see Avatar: Way of Water get re-released with I don't know, maybe 30 minutes bonus footage or something like that. Or
Like this has
I don't know.
the theatrical cut has to be the director's cut. Like I don't think James Cameron was told to compromise on anything.
Yeah.
I mean, or just a straight re-release. I think Maverick did that after 10, 15 weeks or something like that. They re-release it on some holiday weekend. So maybe Avatar will do that too. But still, if you're doing the same like playbook, you're still only getting 1.5 mil,
Mhm.
1.5 bill.
Yeah,
You're not getting that too.
For reference, Avatar 1 just domestically grossed 785 million by the end of its run. Right now we're at 60 million. Right.
Well, no, we're at
Domestic
338 million domestic overall.
Okay, that was that right. That was this week, right? Okay. So I mean, I guess it's halfway there.
Yeah.
You're looking at similar
But we're going to get
percentages as
diminishing
well,
returns
domestic.
now.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know how many people are that thrilled to go out to a movie for 3 hours and sit through something that they could, is probably going to be to streaming later on.
And
I don't know.
that's the thing you have to remember with Avatar 1 is that was a much more palatable length.
Yeah.
It was like 2.5 hours, something like that.
Well, I was talking to my dentist, and I'm like, I would recommend.
Just shooting the shit, you know.
Well, they got all the tools in your mouth, and they bring up something you're trying to make small talk with.
Jake.
But I did say afterwards, I'm like, I would recommend Avatar 2 to go see, but then again, it's like it's still violent. You were just complaining about how Marvel movies are too violent for kids. So I'm like, you probably don't want to go see that, and it's 3 hours long. Are your 8-year-olds gonna sit through a 3 hour long movie?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh hell no, I'm not gonna be able to keep them calm or still.
No, this is again. The kids get to go. They see it at home or in the car, and they'll see an hour of it, and then they
Yeah.
go to Avatar World at Disney World.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone was realistically expecting it to be above 100 million. Honestly, for a second week drop off from such a big opening, it's not that bad. I think the tale will be told when we get to this next non-holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish opened in second. So I guess good for it.
The box office peasantry now.
Yeah. $12 million. Actually, that's a pretty respectable opening.
I heard Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was not a bad movie.
Like, it doesn't look like a bad film. Like, it looks like it's a pretty enjoyable, animated family film that is like it looks like it's trying to make a departure from Shrek, the Shrekticle.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely
that
not
series.
It's a spin-off of Shrek, but it's not Shrek-like.
Here's the weird thing. This is saying that it when you click on Puss in Boots, it's saying worldwide it's made 80 million.
Yeah.
And domestic 38. So this 12 million figure, I don't know, is that maybe that's
that was the opening weekend. Yeah, this is
for the raw weekend.
Yeah, so this is as of the 28th, which was 2 days ago. That's the worldwide total, 80 million, as reported by Box Office. Yeah, it's a decent chunk of change, more than I thought it would do. The Whitney Houston biopic, I Want to Dance with Somebody, opens in third in 3,600 theaters from TriStar. And $4.7 million for that. 12 million worldwide thus far. And opening this week, the last movie to open this week from Paramount Pictures for $3.6 million. And boy, oh boy, did they ever try to get you to see this movie. It's marketed to hell and back. Babylon. It's made $6 million. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's made $6 million worldwide so far.
It doesn't have an international release or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the numbers haven't come back for international.
Somehow,
release?
I don't think this
is going to be a strong
Hollywood
performer internationally.
would be it. Yeah. Even though, as much as Hollywood is a big glamorous thing abroad, I don't think a movie about Hollywood would make for a strong audience reacher.
Maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did okay. Overseas.
I mean, it's got big names for it. Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Jean.
It might not be opening in China, but it is opening in our spotlight.
It's revealing itself. It's exposing itself.
So, Babylon. Let me just pull up the numerals here. In terms of critical reception, it's not getting great reviews. I'll tell you that right now. 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, 55% on Rotten Tomatoes, 50% on Fandango. Even the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is only 50%. And for a 3-hour and 9-minute movie, that might be a tough pill to swallow for some. But some does not include one of these intrepid IMDb user reviewers here. Goes by the name of Brody Thompson 05808. He submitted a 10 out of 10 review for Babylon, calling it one for the ages, submitted Christmas Eve of this year. They truly don't make movies like this anymore. This is a monumental epic that showcases old Hollywood beautifully. It's beautifully crafted, masterfully acted, and everything is done to perfection. This is Damien Chazelle's ode to cinema and deserves every Oscar. A full sweep of the Academy. Coming from a film buff, it baffles me that critics have this as rotten. They should truly be ashamed of themselves. This is why I hardly ever pay attention to the critics in all seriousness. This is the best film of the year and one of the best films I've ever watched.
Amazing.
And it's not done. and I
Oh,
have
gosh.
quite the film library. Go out and watch one-of-a-kind, once-a-decade type masterpiece, and that is sure to be unforgivable experience on the big screen. One for the ages. Well done, Chazelle. 17 out of 31 found that helpful. Channeling my inner Jiminy Glick.
Oh, that-
So
Wonderful
this person really thought this was bad, and I sense a little bit of over exaggeration, but 1 out of 10, dumber than with an E, The Waitress. So I don't understand why he's comparing it to The Waitress, which I thought was a play.
I mean, it's an all right character in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I mean, she doesn't add a lot to the stories.
Yeah. So Race Ellie78 says, I'm dumber than The Waitress. At least I didn't sleep through an hour and a half of The Waitress and then walked out with still 49 minutes to go. This is a complete waste of money. You'd have more fun taking a $20 bill, setting it on fire, and watching it burn to ash. I'd rather have my toenails removed than, with an E, watch this again. I'd rather have my hair breaded
Braided?
with breaded
Okay.
with chewed up bubble gum from a preschooler than to ever sit. That is the third instance of using the wrong.
Well, clearly they
then
don't
thing.
know which is which.
Than to ever sit through this trash. The acting sucked. The directing sucked. The music sucked. The storyline sucked. This is the worst movie to have ever been created. They should show this movie to terrorists to make them spill their military secrets. They'd give up in 15 minutes. 17 out of 28 found that helpful.
It's the whole gamut from the best film ever made to the worst movie ever made.
Wow.
It's we get that a lot with these IMDb user reviews. It's almost as if the
Okay,
internet is very polarizing.
Who'd have thunk? I get to split the difference and usually err on the the crappy side. From Vertigo Movie, aka Movie Karen. Their 4 out of 10 review. I'll see if I can't do a Karen voice. Could have been a great, wonderful film. Babylon could have been a great, wonderful story about Hollywood, but unnecessary vulgarity, nudity, and profanity destroy this film. Too bad. I want to be in La La Land and not Babylon. It's very tough to make it in Hollywood, so why not focus on the struggle to make it instead of the decadent behavior of a few? Why not focus on the struggle? I'm turning into old lady. Why not focus on the struggle to get that elusive Hollywood movie break? I want to like that hot blonde Nellie Leroy, but I could not because Nellie was unlikable, vulgar, foul mouth, and there was no Hollywood sign in a movie that is about Hollywood. What a waste of money. 78 million. When will great movie about Hollywood like Sunset Boulevard be made for 22nd century? 8 out of 23.
Probably when the 22nd century rolls around, I would imagine.
8 out of 23.
I was not expecting pearl clutching.
Oh, a lot of the 1 out of 10s are pearl clutching like crazy.
All right.
There's this movie they could watch. It's called The Wolf of Wall Street.
Janky Sharma
Yes.
has a 10 out of 10 review. A Hollywood magic sets and stars. Movie Babylon is directed and written by Damien Chazelle, La La Land, and Whiplash. The movie is about Hollywood in the 1920s and 1930s. Nellie Leroy, talented Margot Robbie. Talented was not capitalized, but it was in the parentheses. steps into a Hollywood star. Confident, loud, brash, wild, able to shed true tears at action. Diego Caval as Manny Torres from Mexico comes to Hollywood starstruck, timid, no specific talents, and is awestruck with exuberant Nelly, and does not take long to fall in love with wild Nelly. Two different adjectives.
There's a word. There's a 3-letter word. THE. The. They need to learn. They need to add it to their vocabulary.
Nelly Valori is focused on making it big in Hollywood and has courage to leave no stone unturned, but to get what she wants. Jack Conrad, aging but extremely successful actor, perfectly cast Brad Pitt. Notice is nice and timid Manny. The transition from silent movies to value of sound in movies is shown very well. That's its own paragraph. Jack Conrad's true love for Hollywood and magical sets cannot be matched with talkies going into sound mode of movies. Nellie, a star, can handle any and all changes. Timid Manny settles with a quiet family life with a wife and child. The loss of love and true passion for Hollywood is expressed very well by Diego Calvo. I am glad I finally mustered up the courage to see the 3-hour and 10-minute long movie's superb direction and writing, excellent editing, and extremely talented Margot Robbie, pleasant Diego Calvo, and aging nicely Brad Pitt, who can bring magic to sets. Made this time well spent in front of the big screen worthwhile. Oscar worthy. This guy's like Donald Trump, and then he has a nickname for every actor.
Well-aged Brad Pitt.
Talented star Margot Robbie. Pleasant Diego Calvo. Very pleasant man.
Brad Pitt.
Dry-aged.
So as I was going through these 1 out of 10s, a lot of pearl clutching, but none of them were funny. So sorry, pearl clutchers.
Thrown to the wind.
I have to go with this one, which I found. And, more people should have found this helpful because this is by a fellow writer, as we all are. So this has the posh and snobbery of the IMDb user reviews that gives us the good warm, wiggly feelings that we get.
Into this writer's
1 out of 10. Babylon makes me nostalgic for Heaven's Gate, Incon, Gilly, Last Action Hero, and Nothing But Trouble. This is by not John Candy.
But who's it by?
Not John Candy.
You told me who it wasn't by.
Not John Candy. So don't get him. Don't think this is from John Candy because it's not. Let me start by saying that I dabble in screenwriting, and I have written a spec script that I registered with the WGA. For as amateurish as my spec script may be, I am confident that the first 10 pages of my spec script, that I mentioned I would have a spec script, are engaging than the first 10 pages of the Damien Chazelle's shooting script for Babylon. Why? Because in my spec script, the reader does not have to endure someone being defecated on multiple times by an elephant, followed up by someone getting urinated on by an exotic dancer. Whoever green-lighted this film should have instead sent Damien's script back to him with a gift card to Office Max in the exact amount, their cheapest paper shredder, in order to aid in the immediate dismantling of this project. So I go to see Babylon in my local movie theater during the busy holiday week, when everyone is off from work and going to see movies on day 7 of its theatrical release. I sit down and realize that I am the only person in the movie theater. Then the film rolls, and I am treated with a pretentious introduction segment from 2 of the main stars, Margot Robbie and Diego Calva, who proudly congratulate me for the once-in-a-lifetime cinematic marvel that I am about to experience, that brought back a recent memory of Tom Cruise doing the same thing before the movie Top Gun Maverick. There are no similarities. Tom's audience address was genuine and appropriate. Margot and Diego's segment felt like a desperate appeal for those of us who in the audience to look the other way at the train wreck on celluloid that we are about to witness. I think that Margot and Diego instead should have offered us in the audience an apology and a refund, while at the same time making an appeal to Tom Cross, the film editor, to remove their names from the acting credits. In closing, Babylon is an awful movie. Avoid it at all costs so you don't have to reclaim the 189 minutes out of your life you will lose forever by watching this disaster. That is, if you resist the urge to walk out during the film, which many have done according to the other user reviews. 3 out of 6 found that helpful.
Excellent.
Wow.
How droll.
He must.
Oh,
I bet he loves the smell of his own farts.
what? What an amusing trifle. All right. So I figured since we had the time, it's the end of the year, I could indulge in one little longer review. Shouldn't be too long.
Is it our boy?
It starts out thick and then thins out towards the end. It like trails off. But we have this from Red and Blue Bulldog. This is also to make up for every time this year that someone has claimed that a movie was one rating, but they gave it another. Because this 6 out of 10 by Red and Blue Bulldog is titled, "This film is a 6. It's a lush, vibrant 6. It's 3+ hours of seat time, and in the end, it's a 6. And then the review. This film is many things. It evokes memories of other films.
From what I've told.
And yeah, evokes memories of other films and books. This film is Moulin Rouge and The Great Gatsby were those films to be directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. That may sound great, but here it isn't. It reminds me so much of Nightmare Alley from the holiday season last year. A beautiful and yet bloated, overly long period piece directed by a highly reputable director with fantastic star wattage. It also reminds me of this year's Amsterdam, and again for those exact same reasons. But above all those other films, or possibly below, what this film surprisingly, if not shockingly, has in abundance in comparison to any of those others, or even the director's previously beloved works of Whiplash and La La Land, what this film has is buku, and I do mean buku, scenes of grotesque vulgarity and unbelievable amounts of foul language. Next paragraph. None of these things bother me in movies. If it serves a purpose or is to be expected given the subject or scene, the gross nastiness, the bodily fluids, the constant bad words in the dialogue, especially in the first half hour, it seems as though the filmmaker was purposely trying to stun his audience, and this seems his only purpose. I rarely clutch the pearls with movies. My movie date looked at me 15 minutes into this horrendously long movie and said, "What have you brought me to?" It's a long sit the rest of the way. I'm sure people around the world have simply walked out of the theater, having been drawn in by the actors on the marquee, and then quickly repelled by the filmmaker's choices and lack of self-control when it came to editing or trimming down the runtime. Sadly, amazing cinematography alone does not make a movie. Margot Robbie, gorgeous as she is, doesn't fit the time period. She's way too athletically sculpted, and her hair doesn't fit the era at all. Things like that will drive me crazy for the whole movie. Brad Pitt is always great. Here he looks and plays his part to perfection. He's a more extreme and certainly more tragic version of Peter O'Toole in My Favorite Year. The lone true bright light of this film is its ultimate protagonist, Manny Torres, played by Diego Calva. He is incredible and captivating in every scene. This is a tale of debauchery, degeneracy, and destruction. You must ask yourself before purchasing a ticket, can your eyes and ears handle these scenes? And can your butt and bladder handle the 3+ hours of runtime? 8 out of 14. It's a 6.
It's a 6. And that's not the box office tab. That's the box office tab. All right, so that's Babylon. It's a 6. In fifth, we have Violent Night, bringing in a cool $3.5 million, down 30% from last week. Total gross on that, $67.9 million. Black Panther Wakanda Forever drops 4 spots. I guess it is in its 7th week, but that's still quite a bit of a drop. Down to $3.4 million, down 34%. $806 million worldwide for that. So barely more than the first Black Panther grossed domestically. The Whale jumped up 7 spots to find itself in the top 10 for the first time as it rolls out to 603 theaters.
Its real debut.
It's still only 600 theaters. But the hype for this movie is building because that's a pretty good per theater average.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to counteract. Like, I feel like so much of this is on the back of Brendan Fraser.
Oh, absolutely.
I think everyone going into this movie,
it's for the Brown.
This isn't a movie that you just go into just because.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you go into it because if you're going to watch this movie at this point, you already heard all the reviews saying that the supporting cast is not as good, but Brendan is absolutely carrying this film.
To the shock of no one.
Yeah. So only good things from here, I hope.
Yep. Onwards and upwards for Mr. Fraser. The Fablemans finds itself in 8th, up 0.2%, and opening in 167 additional theaters. It has brought in a measly. Oh, it opened in Canada. It's brought in a measly $11.3 million thus far this year. The Menu also drops 4 spots, finding itself in 9th and 6th week. It's pulled out of 1,000 theaters, so it's wrapping up its theatrical run. A pretty strong $69 million for The Menu. And rounding out the top 10, we have Strange World, down 81.3%.
Oh, shit.
They're
cut out of half its
yanking
theaters. They're yanking that shit out of there. And who could blame them when their big budget animated movie makes a whopping $66 million worldwide?
They don't want any cross contamination with Avatar. Like, I wanted to go see the movie about the weird alien planet.
Yeah.
It's also probably because it's on the 23rd. It was released on Disney Plus to watch. So
yeah,
they are like, it is free for people. Get it out of our theaters. I ever tell you I looked up why, like, what was the scene that like got everybody's tizzy in a bunch? Apparently, the boy is just like is crushing on another boy in the beginning of the movie, and like that's his like kind of plot motivation. That's his like love interest that is brought up like
Disney
once
enough.
or twice.
Well, it can't be brought up many times because they have to be able to edit the movie to sell it in countries where gay people are not allowed.
Well, I'm wondering if it even released in China, to be honest. If
well, it's not just China, like Russia and all the Middle East is like that.
Yeah, although I don't know how much media Russia is getting in particular. I know that was just an example, but that does bring me up the question. I'm like, oh yeah, does Russia have any Disney movies it's able to watch right now?
Well, they make their own, so they're gonna have Bizarre.
Are we gonna get Russian Treasure Planet again or Treasure Island?
We're gonna get Bizarre Place.
Yeah. Planetoid of Mystery.
Uncle Van.
It's like when the Pinocchio became like open market and they made their own one. Or I guess it was Ukraine, I think, that did that.
I can't wait for the rash of bootleg movies that will have come out of this time in austerity or in embargo with Russia.
Okay, yeah, I just looked it up. Strange World, it won't play in China or Russia. And then Disney opted to not submit Strange World to several smaller markets in the entire Middle East, Malaysia, and Indonesia, because they can't edit out the fact that he's a gay character.
Yeah, y'all think I was joking about that, but no, it's 100% a real
Nope.
thing.
No, I know. Yeah, it just
Well, I was speaking more to the audience.
Yeah. He's only business. So yeah, that's Strange World.
what a strange world we live in.
Nothing amazing else out.
Yeah, that's
Hanging around.
about there. So we're not going to do gaming news this week. We're going to instead roll straight into year-end awards. It's the Saturn Studleys. We have eight awards.
8 by 3 awards. And no skits.
All right. Well, it's time for our year-end awards. We do this every year. You can go back and watch the episodes because I don't have the winners compiled anywhere before.
Nope.
But when I open my sheet at the end of the year, I see my rewards from last year, and that's what we got. So I will stall for time while Peter reconnects.
So why don't you go through the categories again?
All right. So every year we award the same categories. We give out Best Picture, Most Disappointing Picture. And disappointing phraseology there is important because it's not necessarily the worst. It's just the most disappointing. That could be the worst. Oftentimes we pick the worst. But it can be something that you were looking forward to, but kind of let you down for one reason or another. We give out Most Anticipated Picture for the next year. We do Game of the Year. We do Most Disappointing Game of the Year, which is the same sort of concept as Most Disappointing Picture. And then we give out Most Anticipated Game of 2023, or the next year. In this case, 2023. And then we give out an award for Pleasant Surprise, which is a award awarded to the game or movie that you didn't expect a whole lot from, but it ended up being very enjoyable. So without further ado, possibly, I know Peter's kind of seems like he's stuck in a loop. Let's check in with him.
Let's check in with Peter in the field of the ether. We'll see if we can get him.
We'll try to get him anyway.
I
think
did
he's
have
moving. I can see him.
Oh, I don't even see Peter in here.
Oh, wait, no. Okay. I have his feed. I think I have his individual feed. There he is.
He said he's down again.
Wait. Peter, you're here. Hello, Peter.
Of course, the hour-long Avatar review is perfect.
Yeah. We got him?
Hey.
Okay.
All right. Let me export this part too, and then we'll.
I wasn't ready to stop yet. All right, everything should be sorted out now. We're ready to get into awards. So we'll start with Best Picture, as we often do, and we'll start with Peter because I have a feeling that we should get his stuff out of the award first.
Hey, I'm just going with the one that it's the one I'm going to remember for coming out of this year for a long time, unless someone jogs my memory, which probably will happen. But the one that first popped in my head, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was I was jamming with it. It was wonderfully creative and especially on the budget. It's absolutely my lane is that kind of weird shit. So, just fucking puzzle piece.
Yeah,
Right
I
there.
will piggyback off you right there. I put my Best Picture this year was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think they got a great cast. It goes to show you that you can do a lot with you don't need the top names to really sell a movie. If you get enough press out there and show that they over time that they do a good job, you can make it with not your top name A-list actors. And then also the fact that it's a cool concept. We're in the middle of this multiverse pandemic through the Marvel movies where everybody wants to do one, and this is their take on it in a not convoluted way where you don't have to watch 20 movies to understand the concept. And I think the story was really nice. There's a lot of people who make the joke, but it's apt when you're crying at two rocks that don't say a word and you're just going off of subtitles. And it's like, I don't know, just like that, the
Emotions.
score and the background and the weight of the situation just makes that moment and so many other scenes in that movie really heavy with emotion. So I think that knocked out of the park. And that also is in battling with like surprise, because I didn't think it was going to be like that great, but sure enough.
I did like everything everywhere all at once. Goes in my honorable mention category. I'll also give an honorable mention to The Menu and Sonic 2. But for me, the one movie that I think of that came out, the one movie that came out this year that I bought on physical media, which is usually a pretty good benchmark for how good the movie was The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I didn't want to put it in my honorable mention because I knew you were going to call it out.
Yeah,
because it's a good one.
I was struggling. Like, do I really want to put the meme movie as my best picture? But it's a very well executed comedy with a lot of meta commentary, and it goes beyond just being a stupid meme movie to become a masterful masterstroke of comedy. Everyone in the movie brings their A game. It was a side of Pedro Pascal I did not know he had, but he absolutely crushed it. Nick Cage, great as always. What not a whole lot can be said about it other than it was incredibly funny. It had so many references to Nick Cage movies. So if you've seen a bunch of Nick Cage movies, you're gonna absolutely love all of the call outs and references to it. And it was just very unique in the way that it's a movie where two of the characters are writing a movie, and as they make changes to the tone of the movie that they're writing, the tone of the movie that they are in shifts as well. It was very, very creative, similar to the praise that these gentlemen had for Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was a very unique and creative movie, and I'm a comedy guy. I'm a comedy writer. I've loved comedy my whole life, and this was the best comedy I've seen in a good long time. I have not laughed as hard in a theater as I did with this movie.
That's what we need right now, is like that kind of stuff in theaters, because comedies don't sell as well as they used to.
No,
so having one like this that's also just smooth, it's one I'm definitely going to come back to.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, now we flip the script and look at most disappointing movies. We'll start with you, Jake.
So, something I watched recently, I think we were all, at least I was looking forward to it. I am a sucker for the DC movies, and I really want them to come out with something that'll actually rival Marvel. And I was hoping maybe Black Adam might help pick up those pieces, have a good villain. We've been talking about him being Black Adam for so long, and he finally got it, on top of bringing in Dr. Fate and Hawkman. The other two people, nah. But boy, oh boy, did he just miss the mark entirely. Something that I know you guys reviewed. I didn't get to give my input, but I mentioned last week that I watched it finally, and I just sat there nonplussed for 2 hours and got a nice little stiffy when it came to having Henry Cavill come back as Superman and maybe doing a cool Superman versus Black Adam. But I don't like the direction that they're going, and a lot of the background stuff that's happening with the DC universe is scary, especially because now Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill are all going to sue DC, and because they were promised movies and they're not going to get them now. So
It's all just a clusterfuck. Yeah.
We'll see
And
what
this
happens.
is like Black Adam just feels like it's another misshapen cog that's grinding the wheels of the machine that should be the DC, and it's so bizarre because you just see like animated shows being pumped out that are like fantastic, but you know they can do something with it because John Cena was able to pull off some shit with
Well,
Peacemaker.
James Gunn, yeah, they put him in
Yeah.
charge. So
So
we'll see what happens. I look forward to seeing what James Gunn comes up with, but yeah, it'll be
Black Adam
interesting.
was not it, and I mean it wasn't the worst movie I would say of 2022, but I was definitely had high hopes for it, and this is pretty disappointing.
Right.
again, aggressively mediocre for sure.
Yeah.
I guess Kurt.
Yeah. So my most disappointing movie of the year, I have to give that out to Lightyear.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect from Lightyear. I didn't have. It's not like I watched the trailer and was like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to see this." But I was intrigued by it. Like the whole concept of it is very strange. It is a in-universe movie from a different movie, but you're watching now in your real theater, and as hard as that is to wrap your head around, the movie itself is wildly misguided in every facet. It doesn't know what its target audience is. If it's for children, it's very boring and it tackles very advanced concepts like time dilation that a child might
Mhm.
not really be able to fully appreciate. If it's for adults, there's not a whole lot of substance to the story, nor is it particularly engaging. So it just
Yep.
kind of floats around looking for something to call its own, some sort of, calling card. And it stuck with me because it's just this great example of a total miss on all fronts. Like it didn't land a single thing. And so it'll stick with me for that reason, just how bizarre it was, and that's why it's my most disappointing picture of the year.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you guys both covered stuff I was thinking of. So I can cover this other one. Again, as we kind of talk about on the Studleys here, we choose the most disappointing and not the worst. Again, because that gives us flexibility in talking. Not having to just choose a bottom of the barrel thing each year, because we watch a lot of trash. And rather we grade it by the big delta between our hopes and our expectations and what we actually got. Nevertheless, I will pick a piece of trash for this year as my choice, and talk about my most disappointing film was The Munsters.
That was a
Because
close consideration for me as well.
I was going to pick Black Adam, but then I thought about it and I was like, well, I didn't have any hopes for Black Adam other than it would be an all right movie. With The Munsters, after seeing that trailer, it looked awful, and it turned out to be awful. But there was a time there where I was kind of that vain hope, right, where you're like, maybe this won't be maybe it'll just be a cult classic. It won't be excellent, but it'll have its niche, and it'll be something that like diehard fans can be like, oh yeah, but that Rob Zombie Monsters was kind of its own thing.
Yeah,
But then it came out and it was as bad as we all
had feared.
yeah. So it's just I mean, you can go watch it. There's not a lot of nuance to how bad it is. It's just that it's garish, and the actors it doesn't fit with the legacy of the Munsters. It's trying to match an aesthetic that was half there and half imagined by Rob Zombie.
Yeah. All right. And now let's move on to most anticipated picture of 2023. So actually, this won this very award last year because it was supposed to come out this year, but it was pushed to next June. So once again, my most anticipated picture for next year is Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. I'll just call it mine too. I don't know if
It was on there, and then I forgot about one. So I'll
okay.
Okay,
So
you got
not
something
a
different?
clean sweep.
All right.
I'm
my
excited to
secondary.
hear. But yeah, I mean, Spider-Verse one was one of our favorites. So
won a couple all-decade awards.
yeah, those were huge, and we're just hoping to see, if it looks like they're going to continue on with that, and more of what we love is great. So I'm hoping, I'm looking forward to it.
You might notice a theme in some of my awards here, so I'll just lay the groundwork for that right now.
Yeah. But Jake, what was your pick? Your surprise pick?
If you had remembered what I said for my best one, and then I was like, oh shit, that was a 2021 movie, Dune 1. Dune 2 is being set to release in November 2023. However, that could be pushed back, so maybe we'll have a Spider-Verse situation on our hand next year, but I'm hoping it is sticking for 2023. And Dune 1 was fantastic. It was a faithful book adaptation and remake of the original one.
A lot more watchable than the 1984.
Yeah, a lot more watchable, a lot more digestible. There's a lot of information coming at you, so I think it was a smart idea to break it into two parts. And from having watched the first one, we know where it's going in the second one, kind of, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do and if they can eventually pull off maybe some of the other movies, which I know have been criticized to be unadaptable to movie format.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
but that's just words.
Yeah.
Who
needs
it? Just fooey.
All right, so Peter, back to you for Game of the Year.
Wait, do we do Pleasant Surprise?
Pleasant Surprise we'll save for the end.
Okay.
Because it can be either game or movie.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm going to preface this with, again, another one of our caveats for this, because I think it'll apply to a couple of us here. We base our awards most of the time on games and movies that we've played and watched. And if you're a regular follower of this channel, you will, again, realize that we haven't played a lot of games on the stream. I haven't played a lot of games on my own too much. So the awards will reflect that. We'll just make a note here. Great year. Yeah, as everyone said, it's a great year for games. Yeah. The infamous Elden Ring came out. A lot of games came out.
A lot of great games came out this year, yeah.
Elden Ring, other games, etc.
You had Sifu, Multiverses,
Stray,
Xenoblade Chronicles, Stray, a lot of good stuff. But I had the good fortune to play quite a few games this year, even though we didn't do a lot of streaming. So I had a lot to consider, and even a few that I just played in the past couple of weeks here that made some noise in my mind. But let's hear from Peter.
Yeah. Yep. So my game of the year I just picked up a few months ago. Been playing sporadically, and it's been friggin' excellent. Spark the Electric Jester 3. It's everything I wanted. It's tight. It's good controls that there's a bit of a learning curve for me to pick it back up. But once it clicked for me, the controls are excellent and tight. The graphics are fantastic. The level design makes sense and is conducive to having fun. It's the obvious comparison, obviously, is Sonic games. And Sonic has not had a super grand track record with its recent releases, averaging from middling to troublesome. But this is the Sonic game that a lot of people, I think, imagine in their heads when they're looking for something that would redeem the series. I don't want to make I don't want to just make the comparison, but it scratches that itch so hard. It's a lot of fun to play. So I've been having fun with it. That is my game of the year. Spark the Electric Jester 3.
All right, Jake, what's your game of the year? I bet if you gave me three guesses, I could get it, but
I bet you could, but I haven't played a ton of games like Peter. But you know what? I think games is something kind of interesting. You kind of put a lot more thought into what you're going to buy before you play it. And you already kind of know you're going to really enjoy it before you actually play it. So I don't think there's any surprise that Elden Ring is my game of the year. It did win game of the year. That is why I picked it. I am just copying whatever the public opinion is like. No, I haven't played any Dark Souls game, and actually, from what I've heard a lot about Elden Ring, is that this game appealed to a lot broader of an audience than Dark Souls did.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
it
know
had the
why. Maybe
George
it's
R. R. Martin tie-in and all that.
I didn't even know about that until after, like much later on. So
Mhm.
I had heard a lot about the story being good, about the characters being a lot more kind of fleshed out,
Character.
and it being more
Yeah.
fantasy oriented than some of the Dark Souls, which might have been a little bit more one note into like demon stuff and kind of just slaying big monsters. Whereas, every character in Elden Ring has like some sort of backstory. Even the minor enemies that you encounter, they have something to do with the lore of Elden Ring, and you have this major world that is completely open world. Like it's more. You hear open world, and you're like, oh yeah, it might be open world, but I have to get this one ability from this area to get access to this other ability or elsewhere. And this
Sure.
is one of the first games that I actually felt like I could go anywhere and I could skip around, and it might be challenging.
And it's a
It might be
huge
really
map too.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will level up as I get over there. I'll explore as I get over there. And I might be strong enough when I get over there, or I could grind and try to level up in cheap ways, which a lot of the community did just to kind of get
I
access and roam around freely without the threat of being like one shotted
Easy
out
about
of
it.
nowhere by a bird. So
yeah.
it, it is awesome. I have the fortune of being friends with somebody who's playing it for the first time for whatever reason, like a year after it came out, and I think one of the key like moments in Elden Ring that you get is just getting out into the world and being like, oh, I'm going to explore the area a little bit, and walking down to the swamp and being confronted with a dragon out of nowhere that fucks your day up. And it's like, oh, this is Elden Ring. Like, I
Mhm.
stayed away from the big knight guy who looked like he was out of my league, but this dragon is something else,
Little
and
did
it's in
you
the
know.
starting area.
Yeah.
The real
So
threat.
I
yeah,
I
it was a
think
great game.
some of the points you touched on have, I think, have contributed to why it appeals to such a wider audience is that it's not what Dark Souls has been memed about, which was a linear get good set of gates that you have to pick through
Mhm.
and get punished for. That's what I hear when everyone talks about like their adventures. Like I need to. There's a problem. I'm going to go somewhere else and level up until I can get back to it, which is a staple of more traditional RPGs
Yep.
and a lot more familiar concept to a lot of people. Combine that with, of course, From Software's ridiculous visual design and style of animating its world, plus the open world concept. It's all, it's peanut butter and chocolate. It's all coming together. Um, so I can definitely see. It's also, I said this about Risk of Rain. I'll say about this. It's one of those or like one of those video games you can, when people talk about video games in like movies and TV, you're like, oh yeah, no, I was in the deadly swamp fighting the bone dragon with my +3 magic wand and casting moon spear. You know, it's one of those where it just like it feels like you can just you can
Yeah.
talk about it with your friends, and it's just kind of slots into what everyone thinks of as a video game.
All right. So mine, I'm technically cheating because this game technically came out in 2018. However, this version of the game released in 2022, so I'm counting it, and it's my award. You can fuck off if you don't like it. Game of the year, Spider-Man Remastered. Had an absolute blast playing this game. Not a huge fan of open world game design, but this game made it so much more fun. This game really goes to show you how much a traversal mechanic can make or break your open world game. And web slinging in this game is some of the most fun I've had in gaming in years. Like, I will sometimes just boot it up and swing around Manhattan if I have like half an hour to kill. Like, it's just that good. And then the story on top of it was very good. A lot of, things for the Spider-Man fan in there. It's just put together very well. Uh, Beautiful game. Nixies did an amazing job with the PC port. Runs like a dream on a wide variety of hardware. Just really solid overall experience that I think everyone can enjoy. If you like Spider-Man, if you don't like Spider-Man, it's one of the better superhero action games I've played in a long time. This is coming from someone who's a big fan of the Batman Arkham series, which shares a lot of DNA. This game does with the Arkham trilogy, but it takes it to that next level in many respects, and I'm very excited. I played it. I loved it. I'm excited to jump into some of the DLC I still have unfinished. I played Miles Morales. That was also an excellent game. But there are a lot of other games. I want to give a shout out to Vampire Survivors. That game's a lot of fun.
Picked that up a couple days ago.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, I've played a lot of games this year, and it's one of the more fun games I've had. Rogue Legacy 2 is also an amazing game that came out this year. Elden Ring, obviously. And there's another game that might be picking up a later award from me that I also enjoyed quite a bit. But there's just I haven't gotten around to playing Sifu yet, but I think that's a game that I'll enjoy. But overall, one of the best games I've played in a long time. Well, not every game I play these days gets me in that like little kid mode of like I'm addicted to this game. I have to push through it. I want to keep playing it. Spider-Man did. I did end up like pausing in the middle, but that was because of life stuff. I didn't have time to play it, but every day I was like, I want to play this game.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with Cyberpunk right now.
Yeah.
That was my one goal during this holiday break was I'm going to sit down and crank through Cyberpunk, and I've only had it for like 5 months.
It's I like that game a lot too. It was a very similar thing. That's why it won my game of the year when it came out.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I put it as most disappointed because of all the software bugs. But I mean, that just goes to show if it was unplayable, I would be so frustrated.
Yeah, like I could totally, and I said as much when I gave my summary in Game of the Year. Is like, if you can't play this game, I get it. It sucks, but it ran well for me. I can only comment on my own experience, and this is an amazing game.
Yeah, and I think we had a similar thing with Elden Ring. Elden Ring wasn't performing optimally when it first came out. I waited a little while, and there were some reviews that came out that was very favorable, and I picked it up, and it ran well on my PC. But other people were just like they were really having a bad time with the fact that it just wasn't optimized to where it could. And that's another game where timing is so key. You gotta have that shit down. But bugs can be game breaking in Cyberpunk for sure.
Speaking of bugs, it's time for the most disappointing game of the year, which usually is awarded to a very buggy video game. Who do we start with last category? So Jake.
Yeah, I'll do it. This is I don't think it was buggy, but this is going to be my hot take, and I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people, and I'm going to say Scarlet and Violet.
That was also mine.
Or my most disappointed game. The fact that you had one of your like this is like the world of open world RPG. Now, we're in that era to where that is such a high demand type of games. You had Arceus do it pretty well, and you had Scarlet and Violet almost hit it on the head. But you have one glaring issue is that you don't have level scaling. If you don't have level scaling, you kind of fucking pigeonhole your player into taking a certain route. And there are even people who have like put out lists of like, hey, this is the first gym you're supposed to go to. You have to go here because they are your level. You could skip them and come back to them later and just grind like crazy, sure, but when you do come back to them, they're not a challenge, and it's just a task that you have to check off. So you could grind your way and battle the 8th gym leader and breeze through the other 7 gym leaders and have very little fun in the game if you're just grind it and do it all in one.
Yeah.
And
That's not a fun game.
And
yeah, it is kind of baffling to me, just in particular about the lack of level scaling, in addition to the other things, but the lack of level scaling is that fan games already know how to do this, even before this game came out. There was Pokemon Crystal Clear, I believe it was, or Shining Crystal or something, which had you start in whatever town and you can challenge the gyms in whatever order you want because there's a built-in tracker of levels, and it's called your badge count.
yeah, it's so easy.
It makes sense
to
in
do
lore.
it.
It makes sense in the mechanics of the game. Just implement it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure in the show, Brock chooses Pokemon based off Ash's level. He's like, if you only have that Pokemon, I'll just use these 2.
Right. Because
Meaning,
that's what
and
a
especially
gym challenge is about.
Yeah, you gotta
You're a
imagine
gym
that
leader.
like they're gym leaders. They're taking on trainers of all different skill levels.
Which is bizarre that we've gone 30 years in Pokemon and not had this actually exist in a game.
And that's kind of
And
where
it's
a lot of my complaints with Scarlet and Violet, because it was also my most disappointing game of the year, come in. A couple things for me. Technically, it's a fucking mess. This thing runs like hot garbage. All kinds of pop-in is really bad. Stutters, frame rates cratering in towns. I don't know that anyone's ever really gotten the multiplayer to function in a way that makes it seem like it was worth it. And I gotta say that the Switch is the worst thing to ever happen to Pokemon, because it forced Pokemon to make a jump it was not ready to make yet. Because Pokemon up to the Switch had been a handheld gaming franchise, and now the handheld is the home console, so you have to make a game that's in line with other home console experiences, and Game Freak does not have the personnel with the right experience to make that happen, and boy, does it show with how, rough around the edges Sword and Shield was in some respects, although I like Sword and Shield. Scarlet and Violet had a lot more ambition, but it didn't execute it very well, and it shows in its technical limitations a lot of the flaws with Pokemon as it exists now. Like, the formula has been around for 30 some odd years now, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't really meaningfully innovated in the gameplay loop in that time. And new Pokemon designs are only going to carry you so far for so long. And I think we're kind of coming to the end of that road here.
We're at 1,000 Pokemon at this point. Golden Go, I think, was the number 1,000 Pokemon, and you have this wide array. So now you have the blueprint to be like, I can select a composition of the most broad Pokemon. You can have a different game every single year if you wanted to, just by selecting from that 1,000, selecting 300 or so Pokemon to be in your open world.
Regional
And
decks, yeah.
there's a lot that Scarlet and Violet bring to Pokemon that I'm sure they're going to keep around. But there's also so much that they just did not improve on from Sword and Shield. You had the Crystallize, the Terrasilize ability that is basically just another form of the Dynamax dens, where you go find a crystal jutting out of the ground and you go battle whatever Pokemon's in that
raid
den.
battle.
And it's a raid battle, and that's all it was. And you can only do that so much until you're just like, oh, this again? It's not... I guess the only thing that they're doing good is having new content be released. They're slowly releasing new Pokemon, but you still have very similar character
they're
models.
monetizing Pokemon releases now, which is I don't care for.
No, and you had... I just can't get over the fact, and I know it's nitpicking on just level scaling, but let's imagine a world where there was the level scaling. You could introduce so much replayability to the game and do different gym sequences and have a different playthrough each and every time, where that's genius. So good. And the fact that they just knew about it so early on that they weren't going to have it, and hear that outcry of people saying, no, fucking put that in your game, and they never did. And it just shows that they don't care. They don't care to make a good quality game as long as they can hit a release date and be able to monetize DLCs, which there's going to be another DLC. There's going to be a DLC for this, like they did with Sword and Shield. That's going to probably complete the game. I feel like the DLCs for Sword and Shield probably should have been in the main game.
The data was in there from day one.
Yeah, and I think the data's in Scarlet and Violet to have original. I think the only thing that'll bring it a little bit up is the DLC having something to do with one of the other games, because the ever-present issue I have with the games, and this is all Pokemon games, is there's barely any thread connecting them all. And we have some plot that is just fan-made, that is just fan-picked about the games that are like, okay, you've never like straight up told us that, you know, the megas mean this, and it's a different multiverse, and there was some sort of split in the game, and something to connect all the regions and explain why there's no more megas anymore and why you have these Dynamax Pokemon now.
I'm just a little baffled. Like, yeah, the DLC could definitely have been like the bridge to what, Galar, right? What's the London?
Yeah, Galar
London
was Sword and Shield.
Yeah, like they're both in Poke Europe, right? So you could
Kalos
like
too would be in Poke
well,
Europe.
the Galar Channel, the Poke Channel.
The big fan theory right now is the DLC is going to be a Kalos DLC that's going to introduce megas back into the game, because the paradox forms are basically ancient forms of mega evolutions. And that's seen when they like compare Salamance's paradox form to a mega in a different region, a mega evolution in a different region. So that would be good if they start introducing that, but we have yet to see it. So, and I'm not going to hold my breath for them to actually do something good for the franchise.
Yeah, you want me to hear? If Game Freak, if you're listening, which you're not, because you're not going to listen, if they really want to break out of this loop, of a spiral, we'll call it a spiral at this point, because that's where it's going. They are ripe to make a version of GTA Online, right? Make a Poke Online, because the raid battles in Scarlet and Violet were like real time, like real time turns, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have the technology to have simultaneous live players playing together without it being like a queue fest.
Yeah.
So you could theoretically, if they wanted to break out, they can make a region that you can access, and you can bring Pokemon from your Pokemon home into this multiplayer only region, and you can do raid battles, you can do horde battles, you can do PvP, you can do catching adventures and all that shit, and you can do all the things that a Pokemon MMO, which it's almost there, would be good for. But then again, you'd also have to have good online services.
Yeah,
good online services and a way to, honestly, unfortunately, a way to make money off of it. I don't know if
could be. You can have a subscription to PokeMO.
Yeah.
Not Poke MMO, which is already a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see. Yeah. But that was mine. We've
Peter.
talking about this. Pete, what's yours?
Well, I didn't have that because I saw that it was going to be bad, so I skipped it. I skipped Sonic Frontiers. I'll make a note. This isn't good. This was one of my good ones, but I'll make a note here about the Risk Rain 2 Survivors of the Void DLC, because that technically released this year. So I'll put it in. Great DLC. Love me some Risk Rain. But no, the most disappointing one for me this year, just by virtue of not being amazing or not being standout, is just Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's an okay game.
I thought we all had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, we did.
That's fucking thought wrong, Kurt. Peter hated every second of it.
Like I said, I've not played a lot of games this year.
Okay.
So that is at the bottom of my roster.
Then I cheated because I didn't play Scarlet and Violet, but I just watched them.
Yeah. Well, if we're gonna just pick outside, then yeah, absolutely Scarlet and Violet
before. Okay.
Okay, then I'll just fucking pick that.
The most anticipated game of 2023. I'll start with this one. It's Marvel Spider-Man 2. I don't know when I'll get to play it. I probably won't get to play it next year, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see how they balance Peter and Miles. If they give Peter any new tricks, because Miles has Venom and Camo. How much of the campaign's going to be given to each character, or is there going to be 2 separate campaigns? I'm very curious to know the answers to this. I'm very excited to see if they expand the open world any, or what new mechanics they add, what the story's going to be. It's hinting strongly that there's going to be Venom in it, but Venom's going to be probably Harry Osborn, which is interesting. But creative choices with the canon aside, which I'm sure I have confidence they will make work. I'm hotly anticipating a return to that world and a continuation of that story.
Yeah, fair enough. My pick has not changed since last year because they delayed it again. So it's just going to be Bomb Rush Cyberpunk again. Please come out. I swear to God. Come out in 2023. Let me see if it's still scheduled for 2023 at least. Rush. Because they might have pushed it back all the way to 2023. So fingers crossed. Just come out with it. I want to play that game. I wanna roll around some roller skates and/or skateboards and shit.
I'm curious if this is another one of those where I picked the same one as last year. I don't remember. I probably picked Elden Ring as my anticipated game of 2022, but I may have also picked Baldur's Gate because we've been talking about Baldur's Gate 3 for a long time, and I think last year was around the time that the demo came out, and they've still been working on it. So they may have put, I don't know. We'll see. But that's what it is. It's Baldur's Gate 3. They are getting more into the actual release date and coming out with more information slowly but surely. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic game. Very similar setup. I believe maybe the same studio that did what was the game that we played?
Divinity 2. Yeah, it's Leyrin.
Divinity 2. So very similar setup, which that was a good game. It was just very
long.
It was a good game. I like it. I always will call it the best game I never want to play again.
Yeah, that's a very apt description.
Which is funny because I think we ended it with we were gonna play that final match one more time, and we just never had the motivation.
Couldn't convince me to do.
It's rough. So maybe Baldur's Gate 3 will have a little bit of a different scaling, to where it is a little bit more easier.
Yeah, I think if they refine it a bit, it has a chance to be very good.
Yeah. So I've seen a little bit of the gameplay and it looks fun. It just looks very similar to Divinity, to be quite honest, but it looks like they're doing a lot of stuff with it. And that is going to be cool, very much.
But will it be
D&D
cursed
oriented.
Anticipation?
Yes, we'll see.
Because then your healing won't work.
That's, you know what? If they had taken out half of the mechanics and
half
just
of the terrain
streamlined it a
types.
little bit, oh my god, it would have been so much better. Oh god,
sorry,
yeah.
I didn't see the one square I was standing on was cursed fire.
Yeah, I think the worst one was the steam versus cursed steam,
because then
which is slightly grayer.
Yeah, and the cursed steam, you couldn't heal in the cursed steam. Your healing,
some shit like that.
Or it made your healing do damage.
Yeah, that's what it did.
So the amount of times we killed each other by drinking a pot or doing a heal on somebody and then just offed them, too many times.
Fucking many.
There needs to be a big fucking disclaimer. Hey, this is gonna kill you.
Yeah, mark it the same as you do fucking Death Fog. If we ever play that game again, we're going Barrelmancy.
Yeah, Barrelmancy.
That's how I had to beat that one fight that we were stuck on. I had to barrel dance my way. I went back to the ship. I put all the points into telekinesis. I made a heavy barrel, and then I Barrelmancied our way through that.
Yeah, too.
All right. And lastly, Pleasant Surprise Award. Again, this is awarded to a game or movie that you didn't expect a lot from, but ended up being very enjoyable. Peter, we'll start with you.
Well, I was going to give this to Andor, but I want to give it to Andor because shoot, I thought it was just going to be more Star Wars chaff, but then people started talking about it. I was like, I'll go watch it, and then lo and behold, it was something I enjoyed watching. I didn't have to like just kind of push through, which was huge for Disney Plus content in this day and age.
Yeah, I think the Star Wars shows are doing a little bit better than the Marvel ones. And it might be just because they're taking their time with them. I mean, there's been how many?
It's
2 or 3 Star Wars shows to the
Mhm.
6 Marvel ones
yeah,
in the
they're
same
coming out
time
with a
frame.
Well, it's
boatload this
been
year.
Kenobi. Yeah, there was Kenobi, Mandalorian, Book of
There's-
Boba Fett, now Andor.
Or yeah.
I think it's also
Visions.
because I think there's a more open palette with Star Wars.
Well, there's
Marvel has
certainly
written,
more ground to
Yeah.
mine story from.
yeah, Marvel has both in source material and in writing conventions. They've kind of put themselves into not a corner, but like more like a box, a bubble that they got to kind of follow, and it's hard to break out of because that was the main appeal with Star Wars. Like the thing about Andor was like they just decided we're just going to do something else over here, and
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, we can maybe hook into it later, but this is just going to be its own story.
Yeah.
And that a franchise had, that a series had the freedom to do that, and that it was able to turn out great was excellent, and I was very happy.
Yeah. I think one of Andor's big strengths comes from the fact that you're like, oh, it was just the pilot from Rogue One. Why do I really care?
Yeah.
And then it just turns out to be this epic
It's not-
spy
yeah.
thriller that like has weight to it, and the fact that you care for meaningless characters that really doesn't hold any gravity to the overarching story of Star Wars is really telling to the fact that they just made a good show.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have the Skywalker family be the center point to make a good Star Wars show. You can do standalone characters and make them compelling and interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And goddamn, like, I mean, put 1 or 2 really good award-winning actors to just do a monologue that'll really get your jimmies in a
say,
wrench. Oh boy.
if
got a
you
good
haven't
show.
seen this show, it's not going to spoil anything for
I
you.
haven't seen
but
this show.
just I would say look up Stellan Skarsgård, or his character is Gunther. Look up his monologue from episode 10. It won't
Yeah.
spoil anything for you. I guess it does, like who his character is, but you learn in like episode 2.
Yeah,
So,
you learn that real early on that he's So, oh yeah, just that monologue alone would like hook me into
it
wanting to get there.
slaps so hard.
It does slap so hard.
All right. Well, Jake, do you have a different present surprise? Because you talked an awful lot about Andor there.
Yeah, I totally forgot about Andor. I mean, like, I think later on, I thought about Andor, but my pleasant surprise, I guess it was kind of a surprise, was Arceus. They'll do a game. So I got Pokemon Arceus, Legends Arceus.
Pokemon
Really
Arceus.
didn't know what it was gonna be like. And doing the open world adventure, kind of expecting it to be a little bit more buggier than it was. Had saw some of the issues that came out, but didn't really affect my overall enjoyment of the game. And it kind of opens up a little bit more room for Pokemon to expand on those maybe older forms of past generation Pokemon, and exploring like an ancient Kanto or different stuff, because we now know that Pokeball technology has been around for a minute, and maybe that'd be cool to
Oh, you
explore.
didn't
I don't
get
know.
that from Kurt making Pokeballs out of whatever fucking apricorn you threw his
Yeah.
way?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see more apricorns and see what we can get out of maybe like a Johto, an ancient Johto. And then you get to see like the tower be in its glory, and I don't know, would be pretty neat to see. But if we'll ever get it, who knows? I just think that's like a good open world adventure that strayed away from the gym leaders, and did more of like an RPG, dare I say, Dark Souls style of fighting. It had a tumble.
And you can light attack and heavy attack.
Yeah, so I don't know what you want.
It's just the Dark Souls of Pokemon.
I think it was a little bit too gimmicky for certain things that I was like, all right, it's not for me, but I was surprised at a lot of the things that they brought into the Pokemon environment, and I hope they try to integrate more of that into future games.
Alrighty. I also am awarding my pleasant surprise to an open world video game. My pleasant surprise was Sonic Frontiers.
Okay.
I kind of got a little nervous when I heard open world Sonic game, and with Sonic Team's recent track record, Sonic Forces wasn't that great, but I'm happy to say that it's not really open world. It's more open zone, which is what the developers have coined it as. And it actually works really well. It's a really fun game. It's fun to traverse around the open worlds. You get to do more conventional Sonic stages with the virtual reality stages, which kind of you use to advance the plot. They're ripped right from Generations, but that's not such a bad thing, because they're still pretty good stages. And the plot is kind of interesting. It really feels like Sonic Adventure 3. It kind of diverges away from some of the other Boost formula games. It has more of that adventure feel to it, probably because you got more omni movement in these larger stages that aren't quite as linear in some respects. Not to say the adventure games were like super open world, but there's a lot to do. There's a lot to collect, and it's all pretty fun. It's not perfect by any means. It's got some rough edges. That's what kept it away from being my game of the year, because it's got there's some problems with it, but I think that this is a direction that Sonic Team can take the series in the future that will breathe new life into the franchise. I think this is the best 3D Sonic game since Sonic Generations, which going back 2013 now, so quite a few years, almost 10 years between good 3D Sonic games, depending on how you felt about Sonic and the Lost World. But yeah, I am having a blast playing it with it. I'm not done yet. It's a pretty long
3D
game,
blast.
so I'm working my way through it. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised and relieved that Sonic Frontiers turned out to be pretty darn good.
Cool.
So that concludes the Saturn Studleys for 2022. Be back next year to see how some of these anticipated things turned out. It's always satisfying when your most anticipated thing slots right into your Best Picture or Game of the Year award winner. So we'll see if any of that happens, and then we'll see you next time for our year opening episode.
Regularly scheduled programming.
Something I don't know exactly. Probably Glass Onion.
Sure.
But
oh yeah.
Until then, be well, stay safe, and party like it's 1995.
Peace.
Bye-bye.